In late 1963, Dallas was a city haunted by doubt and shrouded in guilt. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy had cast a dark shadow over the city that prided itself on being Big D. Local residents felt a crushing weight of shame they couldn't fully explain. From Sports Illustrated, an article entitled Big Day for D by John Underwood on January 13, 1964 stated, Dallas cannot accept the alien notion that it is in some way guilty of the shooting of John F. Kennedy, but neither can it understand why it feels guilty. A young woman flying back for the Cotton Bowl game after vacation in Florida said that the whole time she was there, she did not once reveal her hometown. I was ashamed, she said, but I can't tell you why, really. Into this atmosphere of uncertainty came one of college football's most anticipated matchups, the 1964 Cotton Bowl between number 1 Texas and number 2 Navy. For Dallas, it wasn't just another football game. It was a chance at redemption, a pick-me-up for a wounded city's spirit. The Navy team's presence carried a special significance. Kennedy had been a Navy man himself, and the Naval Academy's football program held a cherished place in his heart. As they said in those days, the Army belonged to Eisenhower, but the Navy belonged to Kennedy. An Associated Press article in the Sunday Oregonian from December 29, 1963, gives further evidence to the impact of Navy playing in the Cotton Bowl in Dallas. Furthermore, since Dallas was the scene of President Kennedy's assassination on November 22nd, it has been bandied about that Navy was obligated to accept, because a refusal might appear as a slap in the face, not only to Dallas citizens, but to President Johnson, a native of Texas. The Department of Defense of Washington could have said, accept or declined, but that decision was turned over to U.S. Naval Academy officials. They, in turn, let the football players decide. The 1963 season saw both Texas and Navy dominate their opponents. The Longhorns, under head coach Darrell Royal, completed an undefeated regular season, securing the Southwest Conference title and the number 1 spot in national polls. This achievement earned them a third consecutive invitation to the Cotton Bowl. Navy, an independent team led by head coach Wayne Hardin, finished the regular season with a 9-1 record. Their only loss was a narrow 32-28 defeat against Southern Methodist University in mid-October. The midshipmen were propelled by their star quarterback, Roger Staubach, who had won the 1963 Heisman Trophy awarded to the nation's most outstanding player. Staubach, named Roger the Dodger because of his scrambling prowess, was instrumental in Navy's successful season. A pivotal moment for Navy came on December 7, 1963, when they faced the Army Black Knights in their annual rivalry game. Originally scheduled for late November, the game was postponed due to Kennedy's assassination. The midshipmen secured a dramatic victory, stopping Army near the goal line as time expired, which not only boosted their national ranking, but also secured their invitation to the Cotton Bowl to face Texas. The Eastern media had been merciless in their mockery of Texas, reminiscent of today's regional bickering regarding conference dominance in the new 12-team playoff. Pittsburgh sports writer Myron Cope led the charge, declaring Texas the biggest fraud ever perpetrated on the football public. And Texas plays the kind of football that was fashionable when players wore perforated cowhide helmets. Texas is ranked number 1 by virtue of having gone undefeated, which is like saying that Switzerland has never lost a war. Where the Texas game gets really funny is when you take a close look at the Texas players. The quarterback, who bears the adventurous name Duke Carlisle, executes a handoff like a construction foreman passing a plank to a carpenter. When the nation's number 1 team finds it necessary to pass, the coach has to send in his second-string quarterback because good old Duke Carlisle hasn't gotten around to learning that phase of the game. Take a close look at the Texas linemen. They do not look like linemen. They have skinny legs like centipedes or girls and high rear ends. Maybe it was the TV set, but that's how I saw them. He concluded, unless someone slips a Mickey into Roger Staubach's orange juice, Navy will expose Texas as the biggest hoax in modern football history. Pitt would beat Texas by 3 touchdowns. There was painful irony in the build-up to the game. Just weeks earlier, President Kennedy had been preparing to visit the University of Texas campus. He had even practiced making the hook 'em horns gesture, and Coach Darrell Royal had a football signed by the team ready to present to him. The president's prepared remarks for that day included a playful joke about the potential Texas-Navy matchup. I like the idea of the Navy-Texas game personally, and I'd like to do what I can to help, except that I know how you folks feel about federal intervention. Those words would never be delivered. Instead, the game became wrapped in the somber aftermath of tragedy. As Texas coach Darrell Royal noted poignantly, what some people out there forget is that Kennedy was Texas president too. From the book The President's Team, the 1963 Army-Navy Game, and the Assassination of JFK by Michael Connolly, published in 2009. During the week of preparation, the team took time off from drills and practices to travel by bus to Dealey Square, where President Kennedy was assassinated. They walked up the back stairs of the Dallas School Book Depository and stood at the window where Lee Harvey Oswald reportedly fired the fatal shots. From that perch, their minds replayed the events of that day over and over again. Suddenly, the spirit that usually possessed men of such age reverted back to the melancholy that enveloped the team and the nation for the last month. The visit to the tragic site had served as a reminder of the horror of November 22nd and offered little closure. In their white Naval Academy uniforms, the team descended the stairs of the book depository and marched down the sidewalk, coming to a stop parallel to where President Kennedy had lost his life and the midshipmen had lost their biggest fan. With a grassy knoll on their right, the team knelt on the sidewalk and said a prayer. The game itself proved to be a masterclass in strategic adaptation. Royal, known for his conservative approach, stunned everyone with an unexpected game plan. When Navy came out in a 6-1-4 defense with tight sidebacks, Royal couldn't believe his luck. A chance for us to pass, he would later recall with a grin. He immediately sent word to Carlisle to take to the air. The result was extraordinary. Duke Carlisle, who hadn't thrown a single touchdown pass all season, suddenly transformed into an aerial wizard. His first 2 passes went for long touchdowns, identical 58 and 63-yard strikes to Phil Harris on counterflow plays across the field. Each time, the young Harris outdueled Navy fullback Pat Donnelly for the ball. By game's end, Carlisle would set a Cotton Bowl record with 267 yards of total offense, including 213 through the air. Phil Harris would have 3 receptions for 157 yards and 2 touchdowns. Meanwhile, the vaunted Staubach found himself locked in a defensive vice grip. Royal had spent the entire week preparing specifically for Navy's scrambling quarterback. We got a few quarterbacks to scramble around in the backfield the way Staubach does, to give our team an idea of what to expect, Royal explained. We wanted to make sure Staubach could not reverse his field if he got trapped. When he is allowed to scramble, Staubach kills you. The strategy worked to perfection. Every time Staubach tried to escape, he found a trailing end or tackle in pursuit. The Longhorns' defensive masterpiece was orchestrated by Outland Trophy winner Scott Appleton, who led a unit that held Navy's explosive offense scoreless for 48 minutes. The midshipmen, who had averaged over 31 points per game, managed just a single late touchdown in a decisive 28-6 defeat. The final statistics told the tale of Texas dominance. Navy, despite Staubach setting a Cotton Bowl record with 21 completions, finished with minus 14 yards rushing. The star quarterback was held to minus 47 yards on the ground. They just took my head off all day long, Staubach would recall years later. Pat Donnelly, who had scored 3 touchdowns against Army, was held to just 12 rushing yards. In victory, Texas silenced their critics and claimed their first national championship. The Fort Worth Star-Telegram on January 5, 1964, detailed some of the responses from Eastern writers. Allison Danzig in the New York Times put it this way: the 75,504 spectators could scarcely credit their eyes at the ease with which Texas manhandled and crushed a foe that was thought to be its match. The fast, powerful Texas line, Danzig wrote, in which Scott Appleton measured up to his acclaim as the top lineman of the year, was the chief instrument of Navy's destruction. Joe Trimble in the New York Daily News wrote, Texas brags, but the lads are entitled to talk a bit. In Navy's 9-1 season, Staubach never met a defense like that of the national champion, nor a hound dog of a tackler like Scott Appleton, the All-America tackle. Eastern football really took a comeuppance in this one. Everybody now better believe the eyes of Texas. And of course, there's Myron Cope, the man who called Texas a fraud. The article finishes with, after the game, Cope admitted he's received many calls. Most of the calls were friendly, he told the Dallas writer. Of course, I couldn't open my mouth. My foot was in it. And what about Dallas, the city that felt so much pain and responsibility for the assassination of John F. Kennedy? The Sports Illustrated article entitled Big Day for D by John Underwood ends with the following. At the Baker Hotel much later, a short man in an orange tie and a red nose stood on the sidewalk with his right fist raised toward the marquee. 3 cheers for Darrell, he said. Go Duke. 3 cheers for Dallas. At least some of the doubt in Dallas had been dissipated. That's the story of the 1964 Cotton Bowl, a piece of gridiron history worth preserving. This is John Johnston with Hardcore College Football History. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to this channel. Tell your friends. If you liked it a whole lot, please consider supporting me further on Patreon so I can make even better videos in the future. Thank you.